King Giddorah, Mechagodzilla, Kong. For 7 decades, these titans have battled the king of the monsters on screens worldwide, but none of them, not even Kong, have challenged Godzilla as routinely at the Japanese box office like Gamera. Starting in 1965, the giant flying fire-breathing turtle managed to star in 7 consecutive films through 1971, establishing a rivalry between the franchises which has lasted to this very day. Which leads me to ask, what if these Showa-era box office rivals did more than clash for moviegoers' attention? What if Gamera and Godzilla Showa shared the same universe? Now, for such a scenario to occur, I would like to establish a few key ground rules. For one, Gamera and his rogues gallery will be receiving a Showa-era buff when it comes to their mass. If you don't know, Gamera Showa weighs a staggering, earth-shattering 80 metric tons. Not only would that make him weigh less than a blue whale, but when compared to his box office rival, his paltry 80 tons would be 1/250th the weight of Showa Godzilla's 20,000 tons. The other thing that I'll be doing in this series is assuming that each film, unless specifically stated within the movie itself, occurs when it released in theaters. So for example, Destroy All Monsters would take place in the year 1999, while the first events of Gamera the Giant Monster occur on November 27th, 1965. Though before we witness the Terrapin's awakening via nuclear bomb, I do want to stress how the incorporation of Gamera's film franchise will change things prior to the Turtles' arrival. Godzilla's appearance would remain unaffected, at least at first. Tokyo still burns in 1954, the Oxygen Destroyer is still deployed, a new Godzilla raids Tokyo again in 1955, only to be sealed away and then blasted by Kong and Mothra in 1962 and 1964 respectively. What fundamentally changes for the early timeline though concerns non-Godzilla related Toho films. These movies include classics like Rodan, Varan, Mothra, and more, but to specifically address the films which change, they all share one specific trait. That is, all their threats originate beyond the planet Earth. The events to which I speak include the 1957 invasion by the Xiliens and Doggora's arrival in 1964.
Fools and pests. Threats to our empire.
Huh. Weird. Anyway, the invaders from the destroyed 5th planet from the sun, the Mysterians, would never descend from the stars. This means there is no incursion into Japan, no demands upon Japan for land or women, no Mogeras, nothing. The same happens with Doggorath. Instead of the disappearance of a few satellites, followed by a series of carbon robberies, ultimately leading to the horrific reveal of a monstrous space squid, mid-1964 is rather quiet. A peace only broken up by Godzilla and Rodan's appearance in December 1964. For days, the Atomic Titans wage war across Japan's countryside, their titanic battle cutting a path of destruction across the nation. But neither Godzilla's atomic breath nor Rodan's supersonic capabilities proved decisive over the other. Eventually, drained of strength and will, the two prehistoric behemoths retreat to their respective domains of molten rock and water. A stalemate born not of respect, but necessity. One day they'll certainly clash once more to see which of them is stronger, which begs one very simple question. Where is King Giddorah? And to be rather blunt, he's busy. With the greater amount of alien races seen in the Gamera films, like those from the Virians, the Terrans, or Zigra, we can also infer that King Giddorah's cosmic resume in this timeline includes a longer list of civilizations he's reduced to smoldering ruins. No matter how long he needs to raise these unique and varied worlds of life, traveling from planet to planet would still delay his return to the system of Sol. How much I can't really say or even attempt to guess. So since I couldn't calculate a surefire answer, I requested my YouTube members to help me. Based on the average of their votes, we're looking at a delay of approximately 7.45 mainline films in our timeline, which are the Godzilla and Gamera entries to their respective series. What this essentially means is this pushes King Giddorah's arrival to Earth somewhere around mid-1968, or for context, right after the events of Gamera vs. Virus.
A fortunate turn of events for our colony.
Now, did these alien races or King Giddorah delay or stop the Mysterians and Dogora? Nope. That answer will be revealed to yourselves and humanity at the end of 1965. For now, we focus upon one of the main characters of this series who finally awakens from eons of slumber beneath Arctic ice from an explosion of atomic power. To be clear, Gamera did not survive an actual nuclear explosion like Showa Godzilla did. Instead, after a nearby aerial dogfight causes a nuclear weapon to strike the Arctic, the fire-breathing terrapin is unearthed by the resulting explosion, absorbing the radiation of said blast to grow stronger. After his rude awakening resulting in the destruction of a nearby ship, Gamera then vanishes beneath the frigid sea. Likely, the terrapin's following actions after his awakening would remain unaltered. He'd still attack a Japanese lighthouse, save a child who happened to fall off the structure, before turning his attention to that of Hokkaido. The Japanese Self-Defense Force's weapons within Godzilla's timeline were not all that different from what was shown in Gamera's first film, so conventional weaponry would still be used and prove ineffective. Even if the cadmium plan is still enacted in this timeline, ultimately resulting in Gamera being flipped upside down, the end result wouldn't change. Gamera unveils his natural thrusters and flies away, making his way south, thereby summoning the attention of Rodan and Godzilla. The turtle, especially once he reaches Tokyo, would stir each of the giants for essentially trespassing into their territory. Though of the two, Rodan likely reaches Gamera first due to being able to fly at around Mach 1.5. Thus, the two engage, and if this battle takes to the air, surprisingly, Rodan will be outmatched within his own domain. Gamera's top speed is twice that of Rodan's, a staggering Mach 3. And protected within his shell, Rodan would have to contend with what is essentially a flying, spinning, invulnerable rock. In my view though, if this battle were to return to the ground, Rodan's greater experience thanks to fighting Godzilla, and overall better durability thanks to matching Godzilla, would take a toll on the terrapin, at least until the King of the Monster arrives, eager to enter the fray. A three-way battle this fight becomes, yet the priorities for each of the fighters are anything but equal. Do remember that Godzilla and Rodan spent days just a year prior trying to prove which among them is the strongest. That rivalry wouldn't change or be usurped by the appearance of this new monster. Gamera is a challenge to be sure, of that there can be no doubt, but Rodan and Godzilla's hatred of the other not only keeps this fight from turning into a 2v1, but also ensures that Gamera does not lose his life at the end of this clash. Wounded and taking advantage of the other's battle, Gamera withdraws into his shell and rockets skyward, allowing Rodan and Godzilla to once again clash until each grow too tired to continue. Godzilla and Rodan, as noted at the end of Invasion of the Astro Monster, are just too tough. Each are equal in plenty of respects when it comes to durability, will, and stubborn pride, meaning that without a winner amongst them, each of them likely return to their own respective domains within Japan, while Gamera sinks beneath the waves to recuperate, likely taking any and every opportunity to absorb any fire or nuclear material he can discover to recover his own strength, an aftermath which would transition nicely into 1965's Invasion of the Astro Monster. Though, in this shared universe, if you're expecting the events of the film to repeat, you will be sadly mistaken. Not because there is no King Giddorah to be used against the Earth, and not because the Xiliens have changed their intentions in this new continuity. In fact, the Xiliens' tactics are more aggressive. Rather than allowing Glenn and Kaiju Fuji to reach space, the Xiliens immediately obliterate their spacecraft upon launch. A brutal first contact that establishes Planet X as an uncompromising enemy of Earth from the outset. And from here, the controller of Planet X makes himself clear to all on Earth.
Attention, people of Earth. You are hereby ordered to remain upon your world by Planet X. Any vessel breaching Earth's atmosphere shall be obliterated without warning. Continued defiance of this directive will lead to consequences for your entire species. We will not issue this warning again.
Anyway, Naturally, as you can probably guess, humanity doesn't take too kindly to being told what to do. Defiant in the face of extraterrestrial ultimatums, Earth's nations create and launch a varied amount of spacecraft. This effort essentially molding the space race into a contest to see which can best the Xilien threat amidst the stars. However, despite humanity's persistence, each rocket meets the same dire fate as the P-1, reduced to scattered debris across the backdrop of stars, a testament to the Xiliens' technological superiority. But you might be asking, why this change of tactics? Why keep humanity essentially grounded on Earth? Questions to be answered soon, that I can assure you. For now, a new threat arrives in Japan after a long voyage from New Guinea. Beneath churning waves, a new monstrous horror stirs to life: Barugon. Now, the monster's origin would likely remain the same, with Ichiro Harada's venture to New Guinea not being affected by the world government's efforts against the Xiliens. This means Barugon, trapped within a red opal, can be accidentally unleashed, allowing the Crimson Quadruped to run rampant across Japan. Any military action against Barugon likely wouldn't amount to much, and like Gamera discovered when he arrived in Tokyo, Barugon's appearance in Kobe likely piques the attention of Rodan and Godzilla. Once again, to satisfy their own egos, Rodan and Godzilla seek out this new threat to their contested domain. Rodan would likely arrive first, followed by Godzilla. But if you think Barugon is bested easily by either one of these radioactive titans, you are sorely mistaken. Of all of Gamera's original rogues, Barugon may have the strangest set of powers. Able to unleash a devastating rainbow beam from his spines and a freezing mist from his long tongue, each of these powers would effectively counter Rodan and Godzilla respectively. Barugon's low stature ensures Rodan has to fly in close to do effective damage. So when coupled with Rodan's preference to fly directly at his opponents, it means the Rainbow Ray can very easily be directed toward the flying avian. And thanks to the avian's pride, despite the risks, he'd likely attempt to face Barugon head on, only to receive a wake-up call in the form of unrelenting power. Yes, Rodan isn't dumb enough to fall for the same trick twice, and he'd be able to blow back the freezing mist if Barugon attempted to try that technique. However, excluding throwing rocks, Rodan really doesn't have any long-range techniques to attack Barugon at a distance, and he would be hard-pressed to come up with another plan that doesn't put himself into jeopardy. This is in stark contrast to Godzilla, whose atomic ray means he can keep a distance or come in close for a devastating melee. But unlike Rodan, Godzilla can't easily evade the freezing mist, and if Godzilla's Showa does have any true weakness, it is extreme cold. Examples of this include him being trapped in ice for countless years after he raided Tokyo in 1955, and the hibernation he quickly entered once Solgel Island became a frigid land of ice and snow. Rodan and Godzilla would likely each inflict a heavy set of injuries upon Barugon. However, their efforts wouldn't be enough before they are respectively blasted and frozen into submission. This does not mean the victorious yet heavily injured Barugon gets to walk away from this fight, as Gamera intervenes and finally proves too much for the quadruped to overcome. There would be no need to drown Barugon here, utilizing his weakness of water against him. The monster is heavily injured after his previous fights, meaning Gamera can end the threat which originated from the Valley of Rainbows. That is, if he had the chance, because before the fight can end, an Exilian ship descends and captures the tri-horned beast.
An advantageous pawn against Godzilla and... Wait, what?
Gamera, to the shock of the Exilian crew, pursues the spaceship into orbit, an ability the aliens would be absolutely unprepared for. Reptilian claws tear through alien metal, triggering a catastrophic detonation that leaves Barugon adrift in the void of space, while the Terrapin descends triumphantly back to Earth. A victory the prideful Rodan and Godzilla would be hard-pressed to ignore after Gamera bested the monster which blasted and froze them. But more importantly than any of that, it would alert the Exiliens that Earth holds a legitimate enemy to their empire.
This Gamera represents a threat the Xilien people cannot ignore. Deploy Monster 01 immediately to Earth.
Well then, that's ominous. As Earth awaits this new mysterious and monstrous threat from space, I want to take a moment to speak about a few supplemental events also transpiring in 1966. Events involving Giddorah and what's occurring on Lecce Island. Giddorah's creation wouldn't be fundamentally altered by Gamera's inclusion into the Showa era. Frankenstein's death would remain unaffected, meaning his cells go about forming the Gargantua brothers, Sanda and Giddorah. Though with Gamera existing in the Pacific and Giddorah's insatiable appetite for human flesh, I can't see the War of Gargantuas breaking out, as the Terrapin would likely hunt down the murderous giant. And no matter how cunning Giddorah may be, Gamera's flames will ensure no trace of the Gargantua remains to prey upon humanity in the future. As for Lecce Island, also known as Devil's Island, to those unaware, this is the main setting of the events surrounding Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. Thing is, since Godzilla has remained a constant thorn in Japan's side, and with his ongoing rivalry with Rodan and Gamera, he likely wouldn't leave the mainland and wouldn't be involved in any of the events of the original film. A boon to the Red Bamboo, whose nuclear bomb creating efforts would be in high demand for this timeline. Remember, the world is currently failing to contest the Xiliens' dominance of space. What country wouldn't want access to a nuclear deterrent, despite the illegal and immoral methods the organization is employing to create said weapons? Now, as a friend to children, you might be wondering if Gamera would involve himself in the events of the film to free Infant Island's people, and the answer is not really. The Red Bamboo specifically seem to seek out able-bodied adults for their forced labor. Children, being small and far less physically able than their adult peers, seem far less attractive choices to kidnap off Infant Island. So Godzilla wouldn't get involved, neither would Gamera, leaving the hopes of those suffering on Devil's Island in the hands of a god. Not Mothra, but King Kong. Now, on a meta level, this actually kind of makes sense, as King Kong was originally planned to be the monster found upon the Isle after his victory over Godzilla in 1962. Some plot elements even carried over from the original draft, like lightning being used to awaken Godzilla, or the King of the Monsters' brief fascination with a human woman midway through the film. So, in this timeline, King Kong takes the role that was originally created for him, though with a few minor changes. For one, with electricity supercharging King Kong to such an extent that he possessed the strength to defeat Godzilla, I can't see it taking multiple rounds to overcome Giddorah. Likely Kong bests Giddorah with immeasurable strength and electrical might, forcing the sea monster's retreat. The other significant change is what happens to King Kong after he crushes the Red Bamboo base. While in the original film Godzilla ventured into the sea, not to be seen again until his adventure on Sogo Island, King Kong would likely give chase after Mothra. Mothra is carrying a plethora of attractive islanders after all, and Kong would likely give chase for that very reason. Once Kong catches up, I can't really see conflict sparking between the two gods. Mothra can communicate after all with monsters, meaning the highly intelligent King Kong would likely find himself an ally, not a threat to clobber. Thus the pair form an alliance, one the native islanders support with tribute to their growing pantheon of living gods. Yeah, speaking of that, now would be a great time to discuss the change in Exilian motives compared to their original timeline. See, in Invasion of the Astro Monster, the controller of Planet X's intentions for Earth were twofold. First, to seize control of Earth's plentiful natural resources unavailable on their barren homeworld, and second, to enslave humanity, turning Earth's population into an expendable workforce for extracting those coveted materials. However, thanks to Gamera's universe being fused together with that of Godzilla's, the Xiliens would not need to turn Earth into a colony, when they have another, far more lucrative target within the Sol system, that being Terra, Earth's twin. In Gamera vs. Goron, Terra is revealed to be a world on the same orbit as Earth, just on the opposite side of the sun, a twin planet perpetually blocked from Earth's view by the Sol system star, and a world whose desperate pleas for help when they face a dire cataclysm went unanswered by the technologically less advanced humanity on Earth. The Xiliens, though, detecting these desperate pleas from across the solar system, would have not seen a civilization to save, but a weakened world ripe for conquest.
A colony for our empire.
Initially, the Space Scouts, the very creatures responsible for Terra's societal collapse, might pose a significant obstacle for the Xiliens, However, we've already witnessed the Xiliens prove themselves capable of controlling monsters like King Giddorah, Rodan, and Godzilla. With sufficient study, the Xiliens likely would be able to bend these flying terrors to their will, transforming Terra's destroyers into guardians of Exilian bases across the conquered planet. Of course, the Xiliens lack infinite resources from Planet X, preventing them from controlling Terra's entire Gauss population at once. Every new foothold on Terra, though, enables advanced technological development, which in turn allows them to control more Gauss. These controlled space Gauss then protect additional resource extraction sites, fueling further expansion in a relentless cycle of conquest. This is why any threat posed toward Terra would be seen as an existential threat toward Exilian existence. For instance, take the Mysterians. While they and the Exilians are both alien races looking for a new land to conquer, the irradiated Mysterians needed humanity's undamaged DNA to ensure there was a future Mysterian generation born. The Mysterians could not make do with Terra alone. They would need to invade Earth, and whether successful or not, either outcome would be disastrous for the Exilians. Either humanity would be placed under the heel of the Mysterians, creating a rival for the Exilians in the future, or humanity would beat the Mysterians, which would then in turn technologically jumpstart humanity decades, perhaps centuries. Faced with these two equally undesirable scenarios, the Exilians choose to pursue their complete annihilation of the Mysterians. Any survivors likely forced to work upon Terra. As for Giddorah, a resource-consuming life form, if let loose on Terra, could prove absolutely disastrous. So when detected, the Xiliens would purge any and every trace of the creature from the system of Sol. Cut to Earth, specifically Gamera, who has revealed himself, like the Mysterians and Giddorah, as a danger which must be eliminated. To best the turtle, Exilian saucers fly to Earth from Terra. They don't transport a single creature, but dozens of Monster 01, aka the Space Gauss. Wild ones, I should note, so that way Exilian saucers, which would be needed nearby if these were mind-controlled Gauss, are not risked in the operation, thereby gifting humanity with advanced technology if they were to be destroyed. After all, when you are unleashing creatures that can consume hundreds, maybe thousands of people with ease, and have proven to, render a world barren of life in the past, I don't think you really need to micromanage them all that much, no? Naturally, Japan is targeted considering it's the main hub of the planet's monsters. Rodan, Godzilla, Gamera, even Sanda each set about defending their respective territory against the rampaging horde with mixed results. Apologies for the interruption, but by far most of you are not subscribed. To stay up to date with these future releases, please consider doing so, or at the very least, leaving a like. Thank you. To start with the best results from Earth, Gamera and Godzilla defy Exilian expectations and best these space Gauss. We already know from Gamera vs. Gauss that the turtle can overcome this vampiric avian, with his shell able to withstand the ultrasonic scalpel. This places him as the second best slayer of the Gauss, only outclassed by the King of the Monsters. And while I stressed earlier that Barugon was a perfect counter to Rodan and Godzilla, I should stress here that it's actually the opposite. The Space Gauss contend with an enemy that almost seemed perfectly adapted to kill them. The Gauss can fly at Mach 3.5, which is impressive, but we all know Showa Godzilla can later hit targets like Gigan, meaning he shouldn't have any issue hitting them out of the air. What about the ultrasonic scalpel? Well, not only does Godzilla have a tough hide, probably a tougher hide than Gamera, but even if the beams slice through his flesh, his super regeneration can mend or at least stabilize the injury. This is a Godzilla we've seen be shredded to the bone and still be able to fight. Speaking of the Gauss's beam, unlike later incarnations, the Showa version of Gauss specifically can't turn his head, or per head for that matter, which is a perfect weakness for a meleeed center fighter to exploit like Showa Godzilla. These advantages don't guarantee Godzilla an easy victory against the descending swarms of Space Gauss, but they do demonstrate a critical flaw in the Exilian strategy. Overwhelming force alone won't suffice. Monster 01 can't complete the mission. But then you might be asking, why the mixed results after what seems like an easy victory for Godzilla and Gamera? Well, for the Xiliens, there is a bright side to their efforts, because Rodan, Terror of the Skies, will not survive the battle. The Space Scouts are twice as fast as him, and Rodan's armor doesn't cover all of his body. Whether in the first or subsequent battles, Rodan would likely fall to the spaceborne horrors. When Godzilla eventually finds out what happened to his long-standing rival, either sensing it or discovering the body, I can imagine a new fiery purpose driving him from this moment onward. Because despite Exilian efforts to eliminate Gamera, to cripple humanity, they've now just made another powerful enemy. One intent on avenging a rival he never had the chance to overcome. So as the Space Scouts become extinct and a distant cry echoes across the world from an egg on Solgal Island, I'll end this first installment by refocusing one last time on the Xiliens. Detecting a new alien spacecraft within the system of Sol, the controller upon Planet X extends a welcoming hand, all the while readying to eviscerate the new arrivals if necessary. It is then that the Xiliens come to an understanding with these new alien arrivals, aka the Virions. They seek worlds rich with nitrogen, a resource the Xiliens are happily willing to sell to them as there is an abundance of it on Terra. And in doing so, they not only forge an alliance, but attain some much needed intelligence. A destroyer of worlds is headed in this system's direction, a three-headed terror that is nigh unbeatable. And with this knowledge, the Xilien Controller realizes the approaching cosmic horror isn't something to fear, but an opportunity.
King Giddorah returns. Well, then it seems Godzilla and Gamera's days are truly numbered. Their extinction is not merely inevitable, it is imminent.
And that concludes this Showa-centric scenario. Though I would be amiss if I didn't shout out the amazing Evolve YouTube Titan members like Os Eternity for making videos like this possible for you to enjoy. Also, I want to give a thank you to Kaiva for his stellar performance as the Xilien Controller. Not to mention give a shout out to Migzai, who is making artwork for every video I release, but deserves some credit for the awesome piece of work he puts out, like Showa Gamera and Godzilla. Each of these creator links are in the description below, so if you've enjoyed their work, go check them out. If you want your own scenario to be covered on the channel, think about becoming a member today. You'll be able to check out videos early and be able to vote on every, and I do mean every, what if scenario that gets posted to the channel, which does include the next video to release on April 3rd or April 11th, one of the two, something around there, which is what if MonsterVerse Anguirus lived. As always, I'm GrayShot151, and I will see you all next time. Until then, later.